To Dust. Written by Kristen Mullings. 2025 copyright. Chapter 22, Echoes of Fate. The forest felt different after the awakening. The leaves whispered my name. Not as a warning or threat, but as a knowing, an echo carried from root to root, branch to branch. My footsteps stirred the earth in patterns I no longer questioned. The thread called to me in silence, a tug deep in my blood that braided my heartbeat with something ancient. Kael walked behind me. Not in mistrust, but reverence. Since I'd stepped from the spindle's sanctum, the shadows no longer clung to me with fear. They bowed. And Kael, once the prince of a realm carved from torment, looked at me as if I was something more than thread-bound. As if I were fate-bound. I was no longer just Seren. I was the Weave Mother's heir. Thread incarnate. But I was still human enough to ache with doubt. "Are you going to speak?" I asked, not turning. He hesitated. "I don't know what to say." "Say what you're thinking." "That you looked like her," he said. "For a moment. The goddess in the weave. But you weren't her." I stopped and faced him. "No. I wasn't. You were more." That single sentence undid me more than any incantation. Because I felt it, too. Power uncoiled in me now, not just magic, but memory. An inheritance passed through generations, bound in blood and song. Kael stepped closer. "When you vanished, I felt it. Like the tether snapped. Like my bones forgot how to hold themselves. And when you came back." He didn't finish. He didn't need to. The pain in his voice said enough. I reached for his hand. We stood in silence beneath a tree with bark like braided thread. The forest waited, listening. And I finally dared ask, "What did you see while I was gone?" Kael's jaw tightened. "The god beneath showed me a future. One without you. And I didn't survive in it. Neither of us did." The path east of the spindle wound into deeper woods, toward ruins long swallowed by time. The thread pulled us there, no longer a whisper but a command. We reached the threshold by dusk, broken stone columns, vines grown thick with silver-veined thorns, and a gate of rusted metal carved with names I instinctively knew. "These were the names of the first thread witches," I said. "My foremothers." Kael's fingers grazed one of the symbols. "And the god that hunts you, what does it want from them?" "Not them. Me." I stepped through the gate. The air changed instantly. Cold. Stagnant. Watched. But I was no longer prey. The sanctum within was a dome of collapsed stone, but the magic still lived. Threads hung in the air, visible now to me, lines of color and memory, stretching from one broken pillar to the next. At the center, a loom. I approached it slowly. It was made of bones, not human, not beast. Ancient bones, carved with runes and wrapped in silver thread. I reached out, and the air vibrated. "I know this," I whispered. "I've dreamed of it." Kael stayed back. He respected the space and the lineage. I placed my hand on the loom. A pulse. Light exploded through the threads, spinning stories through my mind. I saw the rise of the first thread witches, those who wove destiny with blood, who whispered the names of stars and stitched time into patterns. And I saw her. My mother. Not as I remembered, a fading face, a voice lost to time, but as a weaver. A protector. The last of the Weave Mother's line before me. She stood before the god beneath once. And she sealed it with a thread of her own making. That thread now lived in me. Kael stepped forward, slowly. "What did you see?" "A choice," I whispered. "She bound the god to a pact. It's unraveling." Kael's brow furrowed. "Then we need to stop it." "No," I said. "We need to remake it." That night, I couldn't sleep. Kael had taken watch, sitting near the collapsed pillar where threads still whispered. I lay beneath the stars, tracing the threads on my arms with my fingertips. They glowed faintly, pulsing with the same rhythm as the loom. Memories not mine flickered behind my eyes. My mother's voice. Her laughter. Her scream. I sat up. The god beneath had not just broken the pact, it had remembered who made it. And it wanted revenge. Kael looked over. Another vision. Something worse. I stood. We need to reach the hollow mirror. He tensed. The well of unbinding. I nodded. It's where she made the pact. It's where I can reshape it. He crossed to me. That place is cursed. So am I. He didn't argue. The journey to the hollow mirror took 3 days. Each night, the stars flickered wrong. Each morning, the earth cracked a little more. The world was breaking thread by thread. And I felt it. We reached the hollow mirror on the 4th morning. A chasm in the land, where water no longer flowed, only reflections. The surface shimmered like mercury, and the air hung heavy with ghosts. Kael stood at the edge, his hand resting near his blade. I knelt by the water. My reflection stared back. Not just me, but all the versions I could have been. The daughter who never awakened. The witch who ran. The broken girl who surrendered. I whispered to the water. I need your memory. The reflection shifted. My mother appeared. She knelt beside me, not speaking, only watching. Her eyes were heavy with sorrow. I'm not strong enough, I said. Her voice reached me like a breeze through thread. You are. Because you are not alone. Kael stepped forward. What do you need? I rose. Your blood. Mine. And the blade. He didn't hesitate. He drew the ritual dagger and sliced his palm. I did the same. Our blood mixed in the bowl of the blade. I raised it above the mirror. The threads on my skin pulsed bright, searing white. I call the pact once made, now broken. I call its pieces back. The air tore. The god rose. Not from the earth, but from the water, from the mirror of all things feared and forgotten. Its form was shifting shadow, made of claws and teeth and ancient hunger. Kael moved to shield me, but I stepped forward. I am the Weave Mother's line, I said. You are bound to me by thread and oath. The god snarled. You are unmade. No. I am remade. I drove the blade into the water. Blood, memory, and magic collided. The reflection shattered. The god screamed. And the threads rewove themselves. Around me. Through me. A new pattern. A new pact. Bound not in fear, but in balance. The god vanished. Kael caught me as I fell. You did it, he said, his voice hoarse. I looked up at him, barely able to keep my eyes open. No. We did. Then darkness claimed me. But I knew, even as sleep took me. The threads were holding. And fate, at last, was listening. Chapter 23, Threadfire. When I woke, the air tasted like ash and lightning. I didn't remember falling asleep, only Kael's arms and the weight of thread and blood. The hollow mirror had gone still, but not quiet. Power simmered beneath its glassy surface, no longer unbound, but waiting. Kael sat at the edge of the chasm, his back to me, shoulders drawn tight as a bowstring. The dawn hadn't quite arrived. Instead, the sky burned violet, as though the world itself was stuck between two decisions. Like me. I stood, every limb trembling with the aftershocks of binding the god. The ritual had not left a scar, but my reflection in the mirror had changed. The threads on my skin were brighter now, their weave tighter, more complex. Like the pattern knew it was close to finishing. Kael turned when he heard me rise. His eyes were hollow with unrest. You shouldn't be standing. I'm not dead, am I? You almost were. He stepped closer and paused, as if unsure if I would let him touch me. I broke the silence. Something shifted. Not just in me. The god, it didn't die. It agreed. It changed. He studied my face. That's not always better. I know. I walked past him and toward the mirror. The surface shimmered faintly, the aftermath of divine contact still clinging to the air. But it wasn't malevolent anymore. Just potent. Heavy. The pact is whole again. But it feels like a beginning, not an end. Kael gave a humorless smile. Endings are never real in stories like ours. I knelt at the edge. For a moment, I saw her again, my mother, her face gentler this time, woven in silver echoes beneath the mirror's skin. We need answers, I said. Not from the forest, or the threads, but from the ones who began this. The old bloodlines. The demon courts. The witches who defected. Kael's jaw tightened. We rode east, toward the fractured scar of the Umbra Vale. The spires of Nehemeth awaited, a place where neither order nor chaos reigned, but something jagged between. Along the way, we crossed ghost plains dotted with shattered pylons, ancient thread anchors from wars long erased from history. At night, I could feel their silent screams ripple through the tapestry, like echoes of the betrayed. Kael remained silent for most of it. He watched the horizon like it might tear open. Maybe he knew it would. On the second night of travel, beneath a sky bruised with wandering stars, I finally asked. She taught you once. Didn't she? He didn't look at me. She made me. That stilled me. You mean? She shaped the demon part of me. The rage. The pact bonding. She didn't birth me, Seren, but she twisted everything I could have been. I am part of her legacy. His voice cracked, and that broke me more than his words. You touched divinity and remade a pact. You carry thread fire in your veins. What will you become? The question wrapped itself around my bones. I don't know, I admitted. But if it means breaking every chain they tried to bind us with, then I'll gladly become what they fear. The spires of Nehemeth greeted us with silence. No guards. No torches. Just the wind whispering through bones and obsidian. We passed through an archway of hollowed wings, demon relics, petrified in battle pose. Beneath them, runes flickered in languages older than the Threadmother's tongue. They bled red as we stepped through. Kael stiffened beside me. They know. Let them. In the center courtyard, carved into blackstone and heat-hardened ash, stood a dais surrounded by weeping statues, witches turned to stone mid-spell, mouths open in warning or scream. From the shadows, a being emerged. Not a known deity. Not a monarch of hell. But someone older. Thread-worn. Their robes hung like unraveling cloth, face concealed beneath a veil of shifting filaments. A thread bound. One of the lost, those who once interpreted the will of the tapestry directly, before their minds snapped under its divine noise. They were the first weavers, ancient custodians of fate, chosen to anchor the physical and metaphysical realms. But in time, they were broken by what they bore, buried beneath the weight of creation's ceaseless murmur. We come for truth, I said. My voice did not waver. They raised their head, and threads around their form shimmered with a pulse like a heartbeat. In the silence, I realized they had no mouth. No face. They spoke only through weave. The threads around them coiled. Truth is trial. Kael stepped forward, unsheathing flame into his palm. We are not here for games. Threadfire has no games. Only proving. The threadbound raised a hand. The ground cracked open beneath the dais. From it rose a pattern, a spiral of braids, fire, and memory. The trial of Threadfire. Kael moved to shield me, but I stepped ahead. The pattern demanded sacrifice. Not of blood, but of memory. Each step forward would unweave something I once held dear. I saw the first vision rise. My mother, in the garden of thread lilies. Her laughter. Her eyes. The moment I stepped forward, it faded. Not just in the vision. Inside me. A part of me cried out. Another part wove tighter. Second step. My first thread binding, the joy, the pride. Gone? Each step stripped me down. Not of flesh, but self. Kael shouted my name. But I kept going. Until the final loop. Him? The first night he said my name with reverence. His fear. His fire. My love. I hesitated. The thread wavered. He reached out, not physically. Through bond. Seren, stop. It's not worth it. It is. Because only by burning it down, can I weave something new. And I stepped. The fire engulfed me. But it didn't burn. It remade. The pattern inverted. My lost memories didn't vanish. They rethreaded, sharper. Stronger. Etched into me. I wasn't lesser. I was more. The threadbound lowered their hand. Threadfire accepts. Kael caught me as I fell. But I was smiling. We didn't need answers. We were the answer now. We left the spires changed. Kael walked beside me now, not behind. And I no longer doubted the path ahead. We were fire and thread. Bound. Ready. And this was only the beginning. Chapter 24, Fireborn. We didn't speak much after we left the spires. Not because there was nothing to say, but because silence had become something sacred. It stretched between us like a newly drawn thread, tender, humming with energy, unbroken. The landscape changed as we traveled south. The jagged peaks of Nehemeth gave way to rust-colored hills and scorched gullies, where the wind carried the scent of soot and old magic. These lands had once belonged to the threadforgers, artisans who wove power into steel and bone. Now, all that remained were empty forges and altars, long cooled. I walked ahead. For the first time, I didn't flinch from the fire in my veins. Kael watched me like I was something just barely remembered. Something both holy and terrifying. You're different, he said on the third night. I'm more myself, I answered, gazing into the fire. I can feel the threadwork beneath everything now. Not just as a weaver, but as something beyond it. He hesitated. You burned your memories. No. I reforged them. The ones I let go, they came back changed. Tempered. I didn't lose anything. I became something that could hold them all. Kael sat beside me. So what does that make you now? I looked up at the moon. It was red tonight, as if watching us bleed. I don't know, I admitted. But I think the gods will soon find out. The next city we passed through was a ruin, Tethergrave. It had once been a neutral city, a marketplace where demons, witches, and humans walked the same ground without fear of blade or spell. Now it was cracked glass and silence. Burned sigils scarred the walls. Thread pylons lay snapped like twigs. Ghosts flickered in the corners of broken buildings, more memory than spirit. What happened here? Kael asked, his voice hushed. I crouched beside a shattered sigil and touched the remains. The threads here were frayed, snapped violently. No precision. No ritual. This wasn't a war, I whispered. This was a purge. He stiffened beside me. Witch hunters. No. This was internal. One faction turning on another. Kael stared at the crumbling tower at the center of the city. Then whatever we are walking into isn't just a power vacuum. It's a battlefield in disguise. I stood. Then we don't disguise ourselves either. We reached the edge of the city square where an old gathering hall stood, untouched. Its doors hung open, and at its center sat a single figure, wrapped in grey and gold. She looked up as we approached. Her face was lined, but her eyes gleamed with threadlight, alive with too many stories. A keeper. One of the neutral lawbearers. You are the Fireborn, she said softly, and the title felt like an anointing. Who named me that? I asked. She pointed to the sky. The tapestry. It shifted when you passed the trial. The world remembers your name now. Kael glanced at me, then back to her. We came for truth. We need to know what lies ahead. Who still stands in the old bloodlines? Who commands the courts? Who will try to stop her? The keeper gave a long sigh. Then you must walk the ember path. I narrowed my eyes. What is that? A memory kept in flame. It burns only for those who carry legacy and rebirth. You both qualify. She handed us a single ember stone, glowing faintly with inner fire. Place it beneath your tongues, she said. It will show you the past not as it was, but as it mattered. Kael gave me a look that said, "Are we really doing this again?" But I took the Embers tone without hesitation. We bit down at the same time. The world vanished in fire. We fell into memory. Not our own. The thread wore. I stood at the edge of a burning battlefield, watching witches tear their threads from the sky, casting them like whips and spears. Demons burst from the ground, unbound and feral, their horns ablaze. Humans with runes branded into their skin chanted in hollow voices, puppet by false weaves. In the center of it all stood a woman in white, face veiled, hands raised. She burned with the same thread fire I carried. "Do you see her?" I whispered. Kael nodded, standing beside me. She ended it. She was the one who sealed the pact. I watched as the woman lifted her arms, and from her chest erupted a stream of molten thread, weaving itself into the earth, the air, the hearts of everyone still living. A final binding. And then a scream. Not hers. Mine. The memory split. It became personal. Too personal. I was no longer a witness. I was her. Pain lanced through me as threads wrapped around my ribs, my throat, my soul. I felt myself burning for real this time, consumed. Kael reached for me. "Seren. Let it go. You're bleeding in the real." But I couldn't. The memory had claws. The woman in white turned her face, and it was my face. A reflection from an old life. A forgotten origin. And then the ember shattered. We woke in the gathering hall, gasping. Blood on my lips. Ash in my mouth. Kael cradled me, breathless. "You okay?" "I remember now," I said. "I wasn't just born into this. I returned to it. Reborn, maybe. A fireborn, like she said." He brushed sweat from my temple. "And the woman, was she you? Or were you her?" I didn't know the answer. Maybe it didn't matter. What mattered was what I carried now. Not just a thread bond, but an echo of the first weaver who sealed the gods away. She had given everything. And I wasn't finished giving yet. As we left Tethergrave, a storm brewed on the horizon. Not of rain. Of magic. Of war. Kael took my hand. "You're ready?" he asked. "No," I said. "But I'm burning anyway." He smiled. "Then let them come."